So the basics in potty training, here's the number one thing that you need in the potty training. Where specifically in your yard or on your walk do you want the dog to use the restroom? If you don't know, if you can't answer that by looking, I want it in this 3 foot by 3 foot area, then it's going to be very difficult for your dog to find out. And if you don't know and the dog doesn't know, then it becomes virtually impossible for you to tell them that's right. That is one huge component of potty training is do you actually know where you want the dog to use the restroom? Does your dog actually know where you want it to use the restroom? And have you told them that's the best place to go? Now, one area that a lot of dog trainers don't talk about in potty training is, does your dog actually know how to hold it? One of the big problems that I see with dogs that are struggling is that there is free water out, free food and water out for these untrained dogs. And, it doesn't, obviously you guys can imagine if you have food and water out, that's what drives the system, and your dog is so bound to make a mistake if that's the case that it's living in. So please, if your dog is having potty issues, make sure that there's no food and water on the floor to begin with, and then also make sure, do I specifically know where my dog should go, and have I convinced them that it's really good? So when I actually give my dogs food and water, and maybe they've been irresponsible, they don't know, how do I teach them to hold it? It's pretty simple. You need a crate about the size of the dog, okay? Now you can buy a big wireframe crate. A lot of those come with metal dividers, and you would stick the metal divider in there, and then the dog should just have enough space in there to be able to lie down with a small area, okay? It's not gonna be like that permanently, but it does need to be like that in the beginning. So you give food and water to your dog, you're gonna put them into the crate, and then you need to begin to guess, how long should I make them hold it? It is important that they begin to have the thoughts that, hey, I need to use the restroom, but I don't want to go inside of this area. As they're holding it, and they'll begin to whine to tell you, this is then the perfect time to take them out with your leash to that specific spot in your yard that you want them to go. Now, I'm going to go into a little bit different direction. A lot of folks struggle with this on their leash walks. People want their dogs to, they ask me, hey Al, when is my dog allowed to sniff and to potty when we're going on our walks? Because your rules to walking are pretty rigid. Well, yeah, the rules in my walks are rigid, but that doesn't mean that your dog doesn't get to sniff or doesn't get to potty. So when you're walking with your dog, where along in the pathway that you're going is your dog's restroom, that your dog is allowed to do that. Now, what I like to do with very young dogs is, as I'm walking them, when we get to the potty area, right before we get there, I ask my dog to sit. I ask for their attention, for them to look back up at me, and then I lead them to the potty area, and I give them plenty of time to use the restroom. When they use it, I say, hey, that's great. I make them feel wonderful for using the restroom where I want them to go, and I begin to develop that routine. As soon as they're done pottying and I'm done rewarding them, then I'm quickly going to tell my dog the command to move with me again, which is let's go. And as we begin to move, I go back into showing the dog how to respect the leash. But those are really the basics. Does your dog know where to go? Do you know, does the dog know where to go? How are you making it clear to them that this is the place that you want them to be? And then two, are you showing them that they must defer to you first before they pull you into the area to use the restroom? And I think those are going to be some very useful tips for you to help you get the most out of your potty training with your dog.